Dear Edit, what's the most are you kidding me moment you've ever experienced? Worked for bathandbodyworks.com customer service for years. It was nothing but are you kidding me moments. One winter we had hand soaps with a cartoon polar bear and penguin on the label, wearing scarves and sledding or some crap. I had a lady call and be at me for nearly an hour about how inaccurate that is, since polar bears and penguins don't live in the same place. She demanded that I tell her why we put them on the label together. I didn't last much longer after that. Wait till she finds out polar bears don't actually enjoy Coke. I have a last name that is common but comes in multiple spellings. Think Smith. I always spell the name out when I tell people my last name because mine is the less common method. I was checking into a hotel and the employee checking me in was having a hard time finding our reservations. I believe it was her first day, so she asked the manager for help. I tell him how to spell my name, but he wasn't really listening. More of a let me show this new girl how it is done. After what seemed like 20 minutes he says, oh, here it is. Someone misspelled your name. They put a Y instead of an I. Me. That is the correct spelling. Him. No, it isn't. I know how to spell Smith. I am going to change it in our system. It will only take me a second. That was the day I realized I didn't know how to spell my own name. Denied a driver's license because my birth certificate was invalid for having a tiny hole in the center. I waited 4 hours. I had a college professor scold the class for helping each other study for exams because she stated we were all competing for a program spot future job and needed to be more competitive. She magically was not teaching any classes next semester. Ugh, that's a metric ton of awful. I loved the ex-marine in my class who threw study barbecues at his house to bring the class together. That guy was pure gold. I had a teacher in a base level chem phys class yell at my class after everyone failed a test because we hadn't been taught half of the unit. His exact words were, "It's not my job to teach you the materials." My 10th grade chemistry teacher was like that. She had helped write the textbook and it was awful. Our whole class, and I pretty much mean everyone, went to the principal one day to file a joint complaint, and she ended up quitting before the year ended. Around 2 years ago, an older lady that works for our company called our IT help desk asking us to remotely download all her data from her company iPad, something we can't do because she left it in the buggy of a Target parking lot because it started raining and she didn't want her hair to get wet. Instead of grabbing it, waiting, even calling Target later, she just left a $700 iPad in the child seat of the buggy. The second "are you kidding me" moment came when she got mad and wanted to talk to our manager because we wouldn't call Apple and make them try to download the data. She told my boss she had pictures from her daughter's graduation and granddaughter's birth on it, and he usually silently ties us into any conversations people want to have about us. He told her sucks to suck and that she should consider reading the message about personal data that comes up every time she logs into a company computer. A few weeks ago, Target called us to tell us that they found her iPad in the former store manager's office. He apparently wiped the data on it and was using it for himself. He forgot to remove the property control sticker from the back though. I got suspended for the horrendous crime of taking Tylenol on school property last year. I was waiting for the shuttle to marching band practice when I had cramps, and there was no way to get to the nurse and back to the bus stop on time. I of course complained about my impending miserable practice to a few friends and one offered me Tylenol. Practice went great. I thought nothing of it. Next day my friend and I were dragged to the office and interrogated because someone told the school I took 6 pills of speed. I never had broken a rule before that, so I was panicking. I remember the quote of the year being, "If it was just Tylenol, that doesn't explain why you're so upset right now." Apparently I was the only person at that school who cared when they were in trouble. They ended up confirming it was Tylenol though, and just when I thought truth, justice, and the American way had prevailed, they suspended me anyway. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them in an inflexible and idiotic fashion. Going to the dreaded blue store and a woman on her phone nearly pulls into me. Big blue Dodge van. As she suddenly decides she needs to be in the turn lane and then nearly rear-ends me because she assumed we would just continue to go when the light changed to red. There were 2 cars ahead of me too. If that wasn't bad enough, she nearly hits me again in the parking lot as she drives across the parking spots and has the nerve to flip me off when I honk at her to stop her from slamming into me. One time I was exiting the freeway and this woman came at me going the wrong way on the off-ramp. She honked her horn furiously at me and was flipping me off. Her window was down and she was bellowing some nonsense at me as she passed. I still wonder how the rest of that played out once she got on the freeway going the wrong direction. I used to work at an animal shelter. A woman brought in a Rottweiler puppy, age 8 weeks, said she was surrendering it because she did not realize it would get that big. Honestly, though, thank you lady. You brought him in young, cute, and supremely adoptable and not a year and a half later, out of control and completely unsocialized from living in your yard. You did the right thing. I worked at an animal shelter too. I had a guy come in with a 2-year-old chocolate lab to surrender. He said his kids weren't walking it so he was going to teach them a lesson. He wanted a donation receipt for his taxes since he paid $2,000 to a breeder for the dog. I said no. Tantrum ensued. Fun times. When people correct me about my last name, or claim to know where it originates, here's a typical cringe conversation I have about it. My last name is last name. Oh, you mean mispronounce his last name? No, it's pronounced correct last name. Well, in Russia it's pronounced my way, my last name isn't Russian, it's German. Actually, I know it's Russian and blah blah blah. I stopped listening at this point. I work fast food. We have a relatively popular item which is a strawberry slush made with actual strawberries. It says as much on the menu. Customer orders a strawberry slush. 60 seconds pass, and they call back in and want to speak to a manager. Dipshit, my strawberry slush has strawberry in it? Me. Well, yes, of course. Very itchy dipshit. I'm allergic to strawberries. I used to be a cook at a big chain restaurant and you wouldn't believe how often fried fish would get sent back for tasting too fishy. At one point I was engaged. I was together with this girl for nearly 7 years. Her car died so I bought her a brand new one of her choice. She wanted something small and easy to drive with good storage space so she chose a Scion XD. We drove 4 hours to the next state to get one in the color that she wanted. A few months later she's leaving me to be with an older mid-30s, unemployed, uneducated, no skills, married loser who she knows full well is cheating on his wife with her. He stayed at home all day while his wife worked. They would do their thing together and be sure to get him back home before his wife so she wouldn't know. Well, here's this brand new car. It was in my name. I was making the payments. And she's leaving me to go be with this mutual cheater. I told her that she had 2 options regarding this car. She could either get a loan to purchase this car off of me or I'm taking the car back. I'm not going to pay $18,000 after interest for a car for you now. She wasn't happy about this. She was also using my old cell phone since she broke hers. I told her that I wanted my phone back, too. After I got it back I looked at what she left on it. She deleted the contact of her new cheater frick boy but the text messages remained. I knew his number so it was easy to see who she was talking to. She was saying to him that I was driving her crazy about this car and that I wouldn't just leave her alone about it. You think that you can leave me for the guy that you were cheating on me with and that I'm still going to pay for this brand new car of your choice for you? Are you freaking kidding me? Ugh. I think some people really are unaware of other humans as anything but props to their own preferred narrative. A customer in the restaurant I work in had a seizure and an ambulance was called. My reaction when the ambulance pulled up was to prop the door open for the paramedics so they could get in faster. The assistant manager's reaction was to complain to me about how they parked right in front of the entrance and that they should have more respect for the business. Stop dying here. I need to work. I spent 30 minutes talking to a flat earther, a real flat earther. My license got suspended for several months because a woman with my exact name, not at all common, got caught driving without insurance and the officer mistakenly assigned the ticket to me. After finally figuring out what happened, my boyfriend and I had to take a day off work and drive an hour to the town she got the ticket in to go to court and basically prove I wasn't her. After I was cleared it still took well over a month for my license to be reinstated. It was so inconvenient and beyond frustrating because I had done absolutely nothing wrong. Fast forward 2 years and I'm denied when trying to get a library card because the same woman had a late fee for a Fast and Furious 6 DVD. G2A customer service. Me. I'd like to exchange this game because I meant to get it for Steam but accidentally bought it for GOG. G2A. Send us the key so we can verify it's unredeemed. Me. Sends key. G2A. We can't refund it because you looked at the key. Got my refund via PayPal. Never buying from G2A again. G2A. Possibly the most scummy people in the market. That website ought to be illegal. Was in a training period for a crap job I tried to land to pay the bills after I graduated and was meandering in search of career direction. I got the flu in my second week of training, during a blizzard in which we were maybe one of a handful of offices open in town. I was really sick. Like, don't go into work sick, but it was training, and even if it was a crap anyone can do it job, I still wanted to tough it out by going in. I just had my girlfriend at the time drive me because I was so out of it. We're getting toward mid-afternoon, and the weather has been getting worse. I'd spent most of 11 AM to 2 PM excusing myself to go to the toilet and vomit. Finally, it occurred to me this was a crap job and lives weren't at stake by me toughing it out. So I went to my supervisor and explained to her, look, I'm sick. I've been sick all day. I haven't been productive as a result, and since I didn't drive today, I'd like to leave 1 hour early due to the weather and me being sick. My supervisor said, okay, you can leave, but you will get a written warning for leaving work early. If you get another warning, you will be fired. I put in my 2 weeks notice the next day, and to my surprise, they freaking accepted it and said okay, sit here for 2 weeks without any incentive and be totally unproductive. That was weird. Wait, aren't potatoes from cows or something? Why can vegans eat them? This grown-ass man thought potatoes were from animals. Geography teacher taught religious education in my school. He called Islam Muslimism. He wasn't much better at geography. I had some lunatic come into the restaurant I worked at and ask if she could pay for her $12 order with either a bank draft or a bank transfer, and then she asked for the restaurant's bank account number. When I told her cash or debit only, she became extremely irate and began to berate me for supposedly discriminating against her because of her financial situation. She started screaming at me when I told her to either go to the bank and withdraw $12 or just leave. A local popular food festival, known for its crowds, offered early entry tickets, allowing entry an hour before everyone else. Of course, a lot of people bought them, including my wife and I, and like anything, you show up earlier than the entry time and wait to get in. Maybe 5 minutes before early entry ticket holders were allowed in, a woman strolled past us demanding to speak to someone in charge because she paid for early entry and still had to wait at the back of a line. Are you freaking kidding me? Loudly escaped my lips before I realized what was happening. The woman was sent to the back of the line to wait her turn. The doors opened, the line moved, and the early entry crowd was through the doors in about 10 minutes, tops. Customer, what's your soup of the day? Me. Chicken noodle. Customer, oh, is that vegan? Me. We were doing an event at a school for some tuition program, and one question was asking what they wanted to be when they grew up. It turned into a debate since half the class said they wanted to be astronauts and one kid kept shouting how the moon landing was fake and outer space was fake. Man, they sure do get them while they're young. Work in fast food and actually had someone ask what the difference is between the Angus and the Angus with cheese was. I just looked at them and said, are you serious? Saw a grandmother say their 2-week grandchild could not go through the X-ray machine. The reason was because they didn't want radiation to be exposed to the child. TSA agent and phased said okay, we do have to want the child to detect metal. The next 30 minutes was the grandmother explaining the child would not be subjected to that radiation. She clogged up the line into the terminal and forced the main TSA agent manager to remedy the situation. Eventually the baby was detected for metal with the wand as the grandmother cried. For a second there I thought you meant she didn't want to put the baby in the plastic tray to go through the bag scanner, and I thought yeah, that's fair. Then I realized you meant the scanner that's like a doorway. This girl I went to school with told me she didn't believe in 4-leaf clovers, not the luck part, but that they exist at all. She said it was because she didn't believe in things she's never seen. She also said she didn't believe in shooting stars until she saw one a month earlier. It also came up that she thinks the moon landing was faked so the US wouldn't lose to the Russians. I told her I couldn't prove the moon landing, but I found 4-leaf clovers before and assured her they're real. Last week she asked if you could recycle an orange peel, like, put it in a recycling bin. My biology teacher insisted people with Downs do not have an extra chromosome. Do you know how to read a tape measure? This was an interview for a job doing construction. They only ask because some idiot applied and didn't. I was in the Navy, on duty on my ship, had some indigestion heartburn, asked the Corman, ship's medic, for some Pepto-Bismol. She gives me a small bottle, like 4 ounces or so. 4 ounces was well below the recommended daily dose, so I downed it over my 4 hours watch. No big deal, right? Stomach was still upset afterwards, so I asked for another bottle. When she realized I had finished the first one, she got wide-eyed and stern. Why did you drink all of that? That is not acceptable. I pointed out the fact that I was well within the recommended dose and that it was a tiny bottle, but she stayed unreasonably upset, accusing me of abusing the medicine she gave me. I was taken aback and again highlighted that I followed the directions on the bottle, and then made a joke about how no one is abusing Pepto-Bismol for fun. She wouldn't give me any more, so I just left. Then a few hours later got called in by the chief medical officer, with the Corman standing behind, and laid into about how abuse of medical supplies is a serious issue and could land me in the bring or kicked out of the Navy. I asked the officer, you know this was Pepto-Bismol, right? But he wouldn't listen. It was so stupid. I think the Corman always held a grudge over it, and I still get mad to this day thinking about it. Hospital worker. Here, this happened last week. A patient was brought into ED with a fresh, poisonous snake bite. The pharmacy was called to prep the anti-venom once the species was identified. The pharmacy then refused to prepare the mixture and insisted that because the patient was ill-equipped to pay for the therapy, and that they were to be transferred to another hospital, it would be a waste and an undue expense to give them anything. The provider, who insisted the pharmacy was wrong, had to make several demands which were all ignored. The patient was withheld the therapy and undeservingly had an increased risk to their life. Finally, the CFO made the call to allow the medicine to be given, at which point the patient was already in transit to another facility. Thanks, for-profit hospitals. Student thought the UK and France were both in America. I pondered this for a moment, then asked what, like states? What states? He giggled back at me. States? Like the United States, blank look, of America. The what? The USA? That's not a real place though. So where did you think the UK is then? In America, huge emphasis on the preposition, as if I were being willfully obtuse. Student was British and in year 9, so about 13-14. My mom used to tell the story of how she was approached by another woman on a beach in Barbados, who asked her where they were because her boyfriend kept joking and saying they were outside of America. Apparently the grown-ass woman didn't realize that there were any countries other than America. Maybe you met that woman's son. When I mentioned something about prostate cancer, my cousin goes, prostate cancer? That means a guy has no balls. I get confused and ask, do you even know where the prostate is? Yeah, it's in your balls. Years later I still remind him of this. Obviously he's an intellectual and realizes prostate is stored in the balls. You have been visited by the wealth rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.